Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, Journal. Today I'm going to talk about the SAVE Act, advice for tech workers, and on preaching, and my thoughts on it. So let's get into it. Biggest political news today, along with the tariffs continuing to be crazy. Apparently, we're going to have 10% tariffs on most people, but then screw China. Negotiating tactics still, more tariffs. I don't know. Good way of, I think that's just a moderate increase in tariffs, but sure, okay. But I'm going to hold off on giving any more opinions on him until we know what's going to happen in 24 hours. I think a lot of people should take that advice, to be honest. So, what I'm going to say about the SAVE Act, it seems pretty reasonable, but let me try to make a left-wing case for it. Because right-wingers are going to be in favor of it from reasons ranging from, oh, it's the law, you should be a citizen, you should enforce the law, to let's prevent voter fraud. And you already know all those arguments because everybody knows those arguments. And if you're trying to say that the right wing is just motivated by disenfranchising people, your opinion is worthless. Stop having one. But here's a left wing argument for it. You know how right wingers endangered democracy in 2020 with the insurrection in January? Would you want that to be more likely to happen or less likely to happen? If you're a left winger, you probably want that to be less likely to happen. You know how I know that? Because you told everybody for 4 years that that's what you cared about. So, is this kind of act going to make it more or less likely that Republicans, conservatives, don't trust democracy? It makes them more likely to trust democracy, which is what you say you want. Is a populist far-right leader more or less likely to take advantage, to devalue the voting system if there are checks on it, which require ID in person before you can get to vote? They're less likely to have that as an angle. So if you care about stopping this false information flood, this misinformation, this fake news, all this bad stuff you think is coming from the right, then you should want the voting system to be as auditable as possible so you can discredit them. So one, you can protect democracy. Second, you really discredit people if you have more evidence to show that they're wrong. Just shouting them that they're wrong, you guys tried that. It didn't work. Ultimately, it cost you 4 years after. What do you think is the worst thing that ever happened in the past 20 years to democracy? No, they are. How long do you think? Yeah, so I guess that's what the Steelman's left wing argument would be for having basic ID checks for voting. Another one would be if you are ever afraid of the right wing fixing elections. This would prevent that too. Finally, there's the argument in favor of you like the welfare state, right? You like government programs and such. As such, you should want the programs to be as well supported as possible, which means as big of a portion of the population paying into it as possible. And here's another argument. ID. Do you want more or less poor people, the people you think can't get IDs, to have them? You want more people to have IDs. Why? Because an ID is required to get a bank loan, to get a car loan. For basically any professional type thing you do in America, you need an ID. So if you're right and there isn't anybody, and there's all kinds of people in America that don't have IDs, you should want to fix that. That should be a bipartisan desire to make sure everybody has the ID necessary to go through daily life. Do you want them to be disenfranchised? And if you can find those people that you talk about that are going to be disenfranchised, we want to find those people. We want to give them IDs. Right now they are shadow citizens who don't are disenfranchised out of so many opportunities from not having ID. If you're actually concerned about those type of people, you should want to fix this, and we can help find those people. This would give a motivation to find those type of people that don't have IDs and help them get them. So yeah, I think it's a definite win, but I'm sure you can keep calling right wingers racist if you want. Go for it, I guess. So next screed. Advice to tech workers. So I'm in tech. I started in chemical engineering. I spent 3 years, 1 year in actual chemical engineering stuff, 2 years working for Epic, and then went back to school because I saw where the wind was blowing, where I thought it was. Got doing computer science, and I've been working in the government tech space for about 5 years. I'm not the best programmer, but I'm not the worst. I'm probably average. I was a full software developer programmer type for 3 years at a research lab, a year as a DevOps engineer at a startup, moving to mid-sized company, and then now I've been at a big government consulting company for about a year. So I've been around. I've programmed. I've done DevOps. I've seen some cybersecurity stuff. I'm working on a master's in data science. I'm pretty educated. So that's my credentials. So you may have noticed, if you're in tech, that the tech market is not a great place to be right now. So I have several things to say about that, based on conversations I've had with various engineers, various people, just being in the industry. Yes, it's bad out there right now. It is bad, just period. People being laid off, really good people being laid off, and there just aren't enough spots to take up the people who have been let go from companies, especially the big companies. So here's some advice for anybody who is tech adjacent. First of all, if you are in college right now, do not only get a major in computer science. It's not a great field right now. You could very easily be screwed. If you're thinking about it and young enough, well, maybe do 2 years community college, get your prerequisites out of the way, and then do the major. In 2 years, it might be a different situation. Looking like this might be a somewhat long-term thing. So I'm not saying don't major in computer science. There aren't that many classes you have to take, to be brutally honest. But maybe get a double major in economics or mathematics or something else. At least something that will prepare you for graduate programs. Math is a very good one for that. If you want more just getting a job, economics, for whatever reason, economics majors always do well. It's an easy major that makes you rich. It's got a great ROI. And combined with the computer science major, it's a pretty good combination for any number of analytics type jobs. There's a lot of analyst positions that join economics and computer and tech. So that's my advice for somebody who is later on in their choices. Now, bear in mind, this is a cyclical thing. The tech market goes up and down. This is why you always live under your means. If you live at your means, you're screwed by this kind of thing. If you live over your means, you're an idiot. Live under your means, because then that gives you a cushion in case this kind of thing happens. I have been saved by having a cushion multiple times in my life. Main one being I saved all the money I got from oil and gas and used it when I left Epic to go back to school and pay rent for 3 years. It worked out pretty well. And then I was able to recover. And now, if I lose my job now, I basically have enough money to coast for a long time and travel the world. I might do a round the world trip. So it is cyclical. Third, different fields are different possibility-wise for tech workers. It's not a great time to be a programmer. If you're going to be a programmer or a software developer building apps, you're going to have a tough time. And it's a very difficult area to get a job in. If you can manage to get into government space, do so. Yes, I know they're making cuts. Those are going to be temporary, long term. You have such a smaller bucket of people to compete against if you're in the public sector. Second, any experience is good experience. Don't be afraid of getting it. If you don't have a job and you don't have any experience or enough experience, get just any job. There are jobs out there. They just may not pay quite what you want. But the market as a whole is not going to pay what you want moving forward anyway. 3, don't be a programmer, but some areas that are growth oriented right now. AI seems to be really hot right now, obviously, if you can get in there. DevOps. There is a shortage of DevOps engineers, and DevOps engineers kind of go into a lot of buckets. There's pure DevOps engineers, there's infrastructure engineers, there's cloud engineers. They're all kind of the same thing and interchangeable, and there's demand for all of those. And it's demand that it can't be replaced mostly by people graduating from school because they generally don't teach those skill sets in school. They just don't. It's very rare anyway. And it's also an area where having experience means more than being able to pass a weak code test. I've never gotten a job by passing a weak code question. I have been able to get. I got my first job in a research lab from basically doing well with interview, whole set of interviews, 10 interviews. My 2 companies since then, I haven't needed to do a weak code question, and that's kind of rare for software developers. I've studied them, I've gone to interviews with them, but the ones that have actually worked out haven't required it. So yeah, infrastructure, cloud engineer, DevOps, they're all strong spots to be in. I'm not going to say it's a guarantee because it's not in this market, but it's the best bet you're going to make right now. And there are certificates you can get to kind of work towards that. So, and then the number 3 thing that I don't have is Kubernetes. If you can get real Kubernetes experience, that is incredibly valuable right now. That's probably the next cert I'm going to get. It's going to be Kubernetes. I'm kind of dedicated to this cloud, this just DevOps, CI/CD pipeline stuff right now. So yeah, that's my advice. Have alternative pathways with under your means. Go with DevOps, CI/CD type stuff, infrastructure type stuff, rather than programming. Yeah, that's my advice. What's the third thing I wanted to talk about? Oh yeah, praying stuff. So I went to Bible study today, as I do every Thursday. Even if you're not religious, I recommend Bible study. Do you know why? Because it's a bunch of bros talking about stuff once a week. As a man, you need that. You just need to have time with your brothers. And the other options are either drinking oriented, which is bad for you, or actually that's pretty much it. Sports are good, but I put soccer tonight. You don't actually get inter-person conversations in sports. And the only other way you get interpersonal conversations is going to be like golf, which is expensive and you have to find a group, or book club, which most book clubs suck. Bible studies are pretty based. I'd recommend them, even if you're not religious. Just keep that part of yourself, of your opinion to yourself, maybe. You can do it. And eventually, when you get to know them, they might be okay with it too. They might welcome just you being open. But anyway, somebody had a talk. Somebody mentioned something about. They mentioned talking about their faith in a. They were going around a room and saying, "Hey, what motivates you to come to work?" And he's like, he gave a long answer about, "Well, I believe in Jesus Christ, and I'm a big believer, and I think that God wants me to help customers and do a better job." And we were just kind of awkward. And he's like, "Well, yeah, but." We went back and forth about like, oh, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Well, my opinion, and I gave some of my opinion at the Bible study, of course. But my opinion is threefold. One, there's a lot of negative misinformation about Christians. I've never seen these super bigoted Christians people talk about. I know they're out there. I've met one or two, but they're mostly mythological. which is ironic because they're propagated as an idea by atheists who say mythology is bad. Well, they have a mythology that Christians are bad. It's based on bullshit, in my opinion. No, they're bad Christians. Yeah, there's bad any group, but by and large, it's a bullshit argument. Second, so in your preaching, you can't just do actions because it's not going to do anything. You need to counter the narrative, and the way you counter the narrative is by being open about what you believe. The second thing I would say is that, and this is the issue I have, is if you don't have the fire of faith, it's very difficult to spread it. That's my issue, is that, like, I believe in God, but I kind of don't really trust him. And I think people pick up on that. People pick up on actual, like, faith. Spies. Number 3, and this is, I mostly agree with his actually speaking up about his faith, even in the workplace, but nobody wants to hear this confession when they're at work. They just don't. Do you know what they want? They want, oh, I think I believe in God, and I think God wants me to help serve customers. Perfect. Concise, done, and you get the message across. When you add all the personal cringe stuff, it just comes across badly, but so yeah, that's what I would say. It's a good thing to spread your beliefs because every other group does it. Why shouldn't you? Anyway, that's all I got tonight. Cheers.